Demon Slayer is hard carried by its animation, is something I'd say if I had no brain. Okay, let's start again. If you've been hanging around the anime community lately, you must have known how much of a phenomenon Demon Slayer has become in recent years, especially after the release of its anime adaptation. From record-smashing box office wins with Mugen Train to fan art flooding your feed, Demon Slayer has grown so big to the point that people outside of the community even know of it. Even freaking Frieren does not get such privilege. Its jaw-dropping visuals has made it a conversation starter at conventions and online forums everywhere. But beneath all the hype and dazzling frames, one question arises. Are the visuals the only thing Demon Slayer has to speak of? Is it just an empty product with nice packaging? Or is it something more? So when the dust settles and the credits roll, we have to ask, is Demon Slayer truly extraordinary or just extraordinary?
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we really start digging into Demon Slayer, let's start from the actual beginning. The person who started it all, Koyoharu Gotouge. Koyoharu Gotouge was born on May 5, 1989, in Fukuoka Prefecture, Japan, and began their manga career in 2013 by entering the 70th Jump Treasure Newcomer Manga Awards with the one-shot Kagarigari, followed by several more one-shots before securing a serialized slot in Weekly Shonen Jump in 2016. Their editors suggest writing a simpler story with easy-to-understand themes. Thus, the serialization of Demon Slayer begins. The manga was later picked up by studio Ufotable, responsible for phenomenal action sequences, Fate being their most unique and recognizable franchise. An anime adaptation was scheduled to air in April 2019, and the rest was history. By mid-2021, the franchise had surpassed 3 million cumulative DVD Blu-ray shipments, with Season 1 volumes making up a substantial portion of those sales. The series kept going with Season 2, 3, and 4, raking in more and more money, and now we are going to have a whole trilogy of movies coming out from 2025 to 2027. The first one has already broken records in Japan, surpassing any movie Ufotable has ever released. Even now, on my anime list, Season 1 got a whopping 8.4 out of 10 average rating from over 400,000 users, placing it among the site's top-ranked series. However, with every praise, there is also criticism being hurled at the series. And so, many started to claim that the manga only got a lucky break, that it just happened to be graced by Ufotable's godly animation, that the series would be nothing if Ufotable hadn't found the kindness in them to adapt this manga. So, to refer back to what I said at the beginning of the video, is Demon Slayer being hard carried by Ufotable's animation?
Whenever I see this argument being used online to diss the anime, I still really don't disagree with it. You see, they are actually right. Demon Slayer is hard carried by its animation. There, video done, you can go on with your day now. However, now that we have gotten that out of the way, I think there are a few more interesting questions to ask here. 1, what is Demon Slayer without its animation? And 2, does Demon Slayer deserve all the praise it receives? Let's start with number 1. What is Demon Slayer without its animation? At its core, I think Demon Slayer is a very simple story using the shonen formula. Yeah, there's a few tweaks and turns here and there, but it's just basic shonen stuff. A boy grows up in an ordinary environment, one day receives a call to adventure to achieve some kind of goal. Sometimes it's to find this thing. It's called a thing. It is whatever the hero needs to complete his journey. In this case, the thing just happens to be discount Michael Jackson's Cold Dead Corpse. Sometimes there's also a tournament arc, but that's besides the point. You can pretty much apply this formula to every shonen manga out there, and it fits in just right. But it's not just the formula. Demon Slayer also conveys the most shonenist of shonen in the history of ever. Bonds are important, protect your family, maybe consider going for the head if you want someone dead, and God forbid if I leave out the father of tropes himself, power of friendship. However,
Does it make Demon Slayer a bad story if it utilizes all the tropes this way? Well, I don't think so. Just because Demon Slayer uses something that is already proven to work does not mean a bad story made. What really decides whether a story is good or bad lies in the execution. And as far as execution goes, I think the manga did pretty well. In the final selection on Mount Sagiri, Tanjiro's grueling one-on-one battles play like a slimmed-down tournament arc, complete with escalating challenges and a triumphant "I did it" moment when he cleaves the boulder in two. What follows is a classic Demon of the Week structure where each new foe arrives with a self-contained backstory, unique abilities, and a climactic showdown, much like the episodic villains in Naruto or One Piece. Even these throwaway jobber demons are handled surprisingly well, a tool for the author to build up the plot. We know that Michael Jackson has 10 really strong dudes under his thumb. These two are nowhere near the level of those dudes, but are already giving a well-trained Tanjiro hard time. It gives the audience the impression that, wow, those 10 dudes must be really strong. I want to see them. And Tanjiro actually meets one of those 10 dudes in the next arcs, and they are obviously really strong. Rui effortlessly breaks Tanjiro's sword mid-fight. This is a very effective way to significantly raise the stake of the fight. As far as we knew, no one was coming for help, and he had to face this monster completely alone, with his sword broken, while also carrying his sister. It actually reminds me of Deku's first fight with Muscular, one of my favorite fights of all time. No one was coming for help, and he had to face this absolute beast who tanked a full power all-might punch without leaving a scratch, with a broken arm and a kid behind him. When Rui's tragic childhood is revealed midway through their fight, the story pauses for a flashback-heavy redemption beat straight out of Bleach or Hunter x Hunter, yet it ends with unexpected emotional weight. Later, Tanjiro's surprise mastery of the Hinokami Kagura breathing technique in the climax mirrors those iconic mid-battle power-ups. Think Naruto's Sage Mode or Luffy's Gear Second, while still serving the moment. And when the Pillarmen assemble, no, not those guys, these guys, each elite Slayer's grand entrance and stat drop feels lifted from any elite fighter's exposition scene in the genre, yet it cements their place in the world. By leaning into these familiar formulas and executing them with precision and heart, Demon Slayer proved that playing by the book can be just as compelling as reinventing it.
However, even if the author plays it safe most of the time, there are some twists and turns that actually surprises me. The best one was when Muzan just killed off all the lower-ranked demons after Rui's death. At first, it seems like a missed opportunity. Since the author just introduced a group of really strong people, why would they kill half of them off? But the more I think about it, the more sense it makes. So far, the lower-ranked demons have been proven to be just jobber-tier opponents for Hahira-level swordsmen, so there's no point keeping them around. Killing them off helps shrink down the villain cast, so other upper demon actually have more time to shine, since they and Muzan are probably the only villains left for the protagonist to take down. This also solidifies Muzan's position as the very final boss of the story, with a very strong showcase of his personality. He pretends to have this calm-like demeanor, yet always seems to have this violent urge hidden, waiting to burst at any time. He's definitely very ruthless, but not the unreasonable kind, seeing how even he is not immune to flattery. You can clearly figure out a way to stay on his good side, even if you mess up badly, as long as you provide some kind of results, that is. He's not the best written character in the show, but he's far from boring.
These narrative pivots, like Muzan's ruthless culling of the lower ranks, remind us that Gotouge isn't just leaning on pretty visuals or safe shonen beats. Even within a familiar framework, the story can still surprise us, deepen its villain roster, and sharpen its emotional stakes. But if these highlights are the high points of its writing, we have to wonder, does that mean Demon Slayer as a whole truly deserves all the praise it gets? Question number 2. Does Demon Slayer truly deserve all the praise it receives? I think objectively answering that would be really tough, considering this is the kind of question that usually leads to responses that are shrouded by bias and prejudices. Truthfully speaking, my answer is yes. This is anime, a medium where the drawings on the screen are just as important as the story they tell. Good animation can add a lot to the viewing experience, but it's definitely not the end-all be-all like people made it out to be. There are also the directing, the music, and the voice acting, and other smaller things I'm not knowledgeable enough to list too. What makes Demon Slayer such a joy to watch isn't just one thing, it's the synergy between all those elements. However, the most important thing is, the source material needs to be, good enough. People don't rewatch episode 19 over and over again because it has good animation. People rewatch episode 19 over and over again because it is such an emotional portrayal of familial bond. One of the most important themes in the story, when Tanjiro uses something that was passed down to him to strike down the same evil that took away his family. And also because it has good animation. Would this scene hit the same way if it was animated by another studio? Probably not. But that does not mean the scene itself is bad. You cannot elevate the scene if there is nothing to elevate. This is a decent scene that conveys the themes of the series very effectively. Ufotable just does a damn good job at adapting it to the big screen.
But hey, if you need another example that proves it's not just the animation doing the heavy lifting, here you go. The end of the Mugen Train arc is pretty much a scene-for-scene adaptation from the manga, down to the very last panel. The fallout doesn't rely on dazzling special effects or hyper-detailed animation. It's the simple duet of Rengoku's lullaby and his parting words to the passengers that does the heavy lifting. A quiet close-up on his determined eyes, the gentle tremor in his voice are enough to clutch your heart, proving that even without grand visuals, Demon Slayer can deliver a gut punch through pure storytelling. No pun intended. What I'm trying to say is, it's not a black and white scenario as people made it out to be. A good story is still a good story with or without good animation. Bad animation can ruin even the best of stories, and good adaptation can elevate even the most mediocre of media to either a masterpiece or at least a pretty worthwhile experience. And bad stories are bad, plain and simple. There are definitely things I can delve deeper into to criticize the story, like the underdevelopment of supporting cast, or the oversimplification of villains, or the lackluster endings, but that's pretty much the issue with the majority of shonen mangas nowadays, to be honest. They start out really good, but some of them just cannot keep up with the momentum the manga is heading towards. The expectation starts to grow, they feel a bit stressed out with the weekly grind, and then decide to end it early, around 200 or 300 chapters. Obviously, I'm not going to fault them for that. Mental health always comes first. Besides, I don't think we should criticize elements the author does not explore if they don't contradict with nor affect the progression of the plot. Criticize what the author did incorrectly, not what they didn't do. Can the side cast of Demon Slayer be given more depth to flesh them out even more as a demon-slaying corp? Yes. Yes, they can. But does the lack of fleshed out side cast contradict or negatively affect plot progression? No.
Ultimately, while Demon Slayer may lean on familiar shonen beats and its supporting cast could stand to be deeper, those are quibbles rather than deal breakers, and they certainly don't detract from what truly matters, a core story that resonates on its own merits. After all, we asked two questions. What is Demon Slayer without its animation? And does it deserve all the praise it receives? Stripped of its dazzling visuals, we still have Tanjiro and Nezuko's unbreakable bond, Rengoku's heroic farewell, and Rui's heartbreaking arc, moments that would hit you even on a bare storyboard. Ufotable's masterful adaptation merely amplifies these beats, ensuring they land with maximum impact. Factor in stellar direction, voice acting, and a stirring score alongside Gotouge's heartfelt source material, and it becomes clear that the avalanche of praise isn't hollow hype. Demon Slayer rightfully earns its place in the anime pantheon, not because it's flawless, but because it delivers on every level that counts. So ask yourself, is it extraordinary or just extraordinary? I'd argue it manages to be both. From an extraordinary series of tropes elevated to an extraordinary viewing experience. Hit that like button if you found this breakdown interesting, and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite anime and to make a guy happy after hours of editing this. Maybe press on that bell icon too while you're at it so you'll be notified about all of my latest new videos. And as for now, I'll catch you later.